A friend of mine passed away 2 days ago in a car accident, and everything that I had studied or thought I was going to talk about, I've just been so in my heart. Haven't been really connected to my head much, not like I really ever am. But I'm here not to change your minds, but to invite you to lose your minds and find your hearts. My story began when I left the Ukraine with my family in 1975. And back then it was very rare. President Carter was giving grains to Soviet Union in exchange for Jews. And my parents had to give up their Social Security cards. They lost their jobs and they had to get moving fast, because when we get the phone call that it's time to leave, you've got hours to get to the train station and go. When we got to the train station, my parents and we were going through the border lines as the immigration police were slowly going through all our stuff, purposely hoping we wouldn't make the train, while taking all of our valuables. Go ahead, take our family heirlooms. They've only been in the family for hundreds of years. Thank you so kindly for leaving us with our socks and our underwear. My parents did something huge at that time. They took a massive leap of faith, and with 3 kids and 1 potato and not much to eat and jobless, got up and made that move. So I'm grateful to them. That's us in Boston. And this is me. When I turned 9, I went to the doctors and they told me I had a chest cold. And they told me I have scoliosis, not a chest cold, which is an abnormal curvature of the spine. So as a little girl who wanted to be a ballerina, my dreams were just shattered. And I was locked up in that brace, and this is a modern version of something I wore 29 years ago. My brace went from my neck down to my hips, and I can only take it off for 1 hour a day. And that was to shower, take a deep breath, and cry from the brief moment of freedom and relief. There's my grandmother, Anna, who I was named after, who's a professional ballerina. And she died at the age of 23 from an asthma attack. And writing this story and reliving it has been a very interesting thing to me, because 2 days ago I had an asthma attack, and I was like, where did this just come from? And I feel like I'm reliving every moment. In Israel, when I was 10 years old, I was struck by lightning. I have no memory of this happening. Crazy, I know. At that moment, my intuition tells me that when the lightning hit me, it wiped out my analytical thinking and dipped me straight into my heart to be able to process information, and all I could do is feel it through energy. A lot of times, people look at me and they're like, can't you just do it this way or that way and think with your mind? And I'm telling them, I don't think I have a mind to think with, really. It's really my heart that's my mind. This is where I think. This is where I feel. This is who I am. And so for any of you who have not yet been struck by lightning, I highly recommend it. This is my sister and I. We got our citizenship in America. This was the house that my parents built in Mill Valley, and my dad was on his way to a meeting from San Francisco to Los Angeles when he had a heart attack and lost control of the car and died, and my whole world was flipped upside down. And it took everything inside of us to regain our strength. And because our love is so strong for each other with our family, we were able to reconnect all the pieces and move forward. We moved into an apartment after that because we couldn't afford to live there anymore. And there was just so many unanswered questions of why would this ever happen to such a beautiful family. That's my mom, Ilana, and she is a magical goddess. When I was 14 years old, my mom got cancer, and the doctors told her she has a few months to live. My mom, being the powerful woman that she is, she stood up to the doctors and said, "I'll let you know when I'm dying." Of course. And so she didn't take any information in of what the doctor said and decided to create her own story. And she shifted her life massively. She went from red wine to beets and caviar to kale. And she shifted her life in here. She made a choice to really not listen to what others have to say. Whatever credentials they have, you always can create your own story. This is her. She played Carnegie Hall solo concert, sold out, and is living her dream right now in Manhattan as a concert pianist. When I was 25, I gave birth to my first son, Andre. And we ended up in an emergency C-section. And the doctor saved our life, and I was very grateful for that. And I started to just really tap into how life is and how fragile everything is. And one day, I was sitting at a coffee shop in Los Angeles with Andre, and he says to me, "Mommy, let's have arts and crafts." I looked deep into his soul, and I said, "Cool, I'm going to cancel my clients, and we're going to go have arts and crafts." We walked next door to a bead store and bought all kinds of tools and books on how to make jewelry. We went back home, created a bunch of fun pieces together. A week later, we were sitting at another place having lunch, and this woman comes up to me and she goes, "Oh my God, I love your necklace." I said, "Thank you." My son and I made it, and I got super excited. And she goes, "No, I really like your necklace. Like, I love it, and I need it tonight." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I don't make jewelry." And she's like, "No, I really need this necklace, so just name me a price." I was like, "Okay, crazy lady, go away. I'm going to name her a price that she'll run." Well, I named her a really crazy price, and she actually took it out and gave it to me in cash. And that moment shifted my life forever because I wasn't stuck in my head and I was in my heart. I listened to the doors of beautiful opportunities that my soul's path needed to create. And 13 years later, I worked with a ton of celebrities doing red carpet events, and that was so inspiring and beautiful. And on my first time doing an event, I donated a necklace to this woman who was working for a charity. And I said, "Please donate this to the kids." I show up at the Beverly Hills Hotel that night, and I was like, "Whoa, amazing. There's all these celebrities. Where am I?" And that night, my necklace was being auctioned off with the most top designers, Gucci, Prada, Dolce & Gabbana. I was like, oh my God, and sold for thousands of dollars. That was my aha moment. I created my own story. People come up to me, they're like, "Who are you to sell it for that price?" I'm like, "I know, I created myself. I'm Anna Rain." My son Shiloh, who was born 3 years ago to another emergency C-section. Guess I'm not meant for home births, huh? This time it wasn't as easy. My uterus burst, and Shiloh and I got rushed to the hospital. But by the time we got into C-section, it was about an hour and a half after. And the doctors rushed him off. He came out blue. I thought he was dead. They were sewing me up, and they were telling me all these things in the recovery room. For the 8 hours, I could not see him. They were telling me all these stories. He's going to have these problems. He won't be able to move his legs or arms, or he didn't get oxygen. I went deep into my heart, and I connected to his soul's path. And I said, this is not what we're here to do right now. We're going to recreate the story. I called all my magicians, my healers, my light workers, and we prayed and did healing work for a week. The doctors came back every day scratching their heads. They're like, he passed another test. He passed another test. A week later, they came back to me and they said, "I don't know what you did, but whatever it is that you did that shifted his life, you're walking home with a perfectly amazing baby boy." And my uterus intact. I met my next inspiration through Shiloh, and one of my business partners, who's the most amazing woman sitting here today, we created this beautiful new thing that's going to shift lives forever, this most amazing thing for kids and babies. And one bite at a time, we will make shift happen. And I invite you to never, ever allow anybody to tell you your story. Shift happens. This is my kids, Andre and Shiloh. This is me living in the fast lane. And my soulmate, Thomas. And I created a beautiful family. And my 3-year-old, just to let you know, when I got home, his biological father was not anything I thought he was going to be. And it turned out that I was homeless at that moment and carless and still brave enough to get up and make a shift because I knew it was for my best and for my kids. And I invite you guys to always stay in your hearts and create your own stories. Let's make shift happen.